Hello and welcome to Learning Rewired, the podcast hosted by Headspring, the joint venture of the Financial Times and IE Business School. My name is Thiago Kivi. I'm your host, and today I have a very special guest, Katharina Dalka. Katharina, thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us here.
Thanks for having me.
The topic of our conversation today, it's something that is crucial for leaders, particularly, in 2025 when the stakes are really high. Negotiation. Negotiation, it's a very, very difficult topic for many people. So we're going to dive into this topic. But before we jump in, I'd like to learn a little bit more about you. Just can you share a little bit about yourself with our audience?
So by career, I'm a corporate finance professional. I spent roughly 20 years between corporate finance and technology. I'm actually German born and raised, and I moved to Paris when I was 19 to study, and then I stayed there, worked a bit in consulting, then moved over to London 8 years ago, continued in consulting, then became head of corporate development internally. And now I run my own corporate finance company called StellarOne, and we do M&A and strategic advisory in tech.
So you deal every day with people trying to negotiate deals, trying to get the best out. And when you see people on a negotiation table or perhaps negotiation via email, I don't know, how things are done these days. What is the most common mistake that people make when it comes to negotiating?
So overall, I would say that a lot of people think that their negotiation counterpart does them a favor of being there. I'll explain myself. There is a degree of gratitude that makes people somewhat submissive to the offer that they're receiving. That's a lot what I see. And I always teach, so when somebody sits at the table of negotiations, both parties have an interest. It's not somebody who does you a favor.
Okay, give me an example of that, please, because...
So in an M&A deal, that would typically look like, a founder who receives an offer to buy his company, and it is more than what he expected. And he'll be like, oh, this is great, we need to take this. And I'm just like, no, this is just beginning.
Right.
A first offer is seldomly the last offer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I guess there's some technical terms for these things, right? Your anchor, your butner.
Yeah.
Do you want to dive a little bit into this, actually, just to give the basics?
Wow, I can go on and on about
I know.
it.
And of course, anybody who's done an MBA probably is very familiar with this, but just to set the audience and make sure that everybody has the level understanding about what we're talking about when it comes to negotiation.
So in negotiations is what we call the technical skills. So two of the most important technical skills or technical measures that we have is the reservation point. And that is something that you'd prepare before you go into the negotiation. So basically, that's the point. This is when you walk off the table of negotiations. So any offer lower or higher than that, depending on where you stand, on which side of the deal, you won't accept. Mm-hmm. And the second notion is the BATNA, the best alternative to a negotiated agreement, which is basically the solution that you opt for when your reservation point is not respected.
Mm-hmm.
And often people forget these very basic notions in negotiations, and then they walk into the negotiation and they move those notions around, especially the reservation point, and that very often gives an impression of insecurity, like not being a confident negotiator. When you move your reservation point without a valid reason, then you somehow start to lose your stance in negotiations.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you're seeing nowadays, we're seeing the news every day now when we're talking about all the tariffs and the way countries or nations and leaders are going to Donald Trump now in 2025.
Very political.
And what are your thoughts on what's going on in the world and the way Trump is going for? Is he hedging his bets? And of course, I know you're not a political analyst or anything like this, but from a negotiation expert, someone who's done a lot and seen a lot, what is your take on that?
It's very difficult to say because I don't have the facts that are going on behind the scene. I don't know what are the arguments that come from one side or the other. Very difficult to have a specific opinion about one specific negotiation, let's say, between the European Union and the US. What I find interesting to observe, though, is the negotiation styles that are applied in those negotiations, because we all have a negotiation style, specific one. And I see in those negotiations different negotiation styles meeting. And I don't feel like there's a lot of knowledge going on about those negotiation styles and how to accommodate those and how to ultimately manage those.
So what kind of style do you see?
Oh, so there are a lot of different ones. So for example, we have negotiation styles, and in theory, we have negotiation styles that are very accommodating, that are more looking for preserving the relationship. Then we have negotiation styles where it's a win-lose approach, where whenever I win, you lose, and vice versa. We have approaches where it's a win-win, where people constantly try to extend, whatever is on the table so everybody can be happy. We see a lot of different ones depending on the culture, depending on the people that are sitting at the table, depending on the politicians, what is their career, what is their background.
And if you look back into your career and your kind of all the different experiences you've had, what was the best negotiation episode that you had that you felt, okay, I did really well? And what did you do in that occasion that was like, okay, I did really well because of this?
Yeah, so that was during one specific deal. I was on the buyer side, and actually we couldn't find an agreement for the price of the purchase of the company. And I walked up to the seller and said, okay, so other than the money, what would make you happy in the deal, right? And he gave me one of the advantages that he had in the company as of now that he would potentially lose if he did the deal. He said, it's like, if I can keep this specifically, it'll really make me happy. And it's like in the full scope of the deal, that was nothing in terms of money. But for him, it was important. It was much more than just the money. So I made sure he could keep that advantage. And that is one of the most prevailing experiences in negotiations for me. This is when I understood, first of all, that I like to go for a win-win. That's like my cultural background and like my character. It's like I like to work like that. I also saw that it gave the best long-term results. And that's what I wanted in this specific negotiation. And it's just expanding the horizon of discussions during negotiations. It was the great learning.
Interesting. And in the end, he went for the deal.
Oh yeah, we closed the deal.
Very interesting. And this is kind of what I want you to dive in a little bit, because there's always humans, right? And humans are, subjective and sensitive creatures that they can be rational, but also very emotional. At what point do you feel that you can use this kind of the more human, or you can leverage this human element?
Straight from the start.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not... Actually, what I teach and what I do is before I even start to speak to a person about a deal and all the, details of what money, what advantages, etc., I'm actually looking who I'm dealing with. What's the professional background of the person? Where does the person come from culturally? What is their sense of timing? I wouldn't negotiate in the same way with a German that I would negotiate with somebody from Southeast Asia. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Timing is something that is very important in negotiations. And this one of the first things that I look at is like, how does the person deal with timing?
If you go into a negotiation with a specific culture, how can you prepare? What can you leverage and so on?
So interestingly enough, when I compare Germany to England, there are a lot of similarities. When I compare Germany to France, it's country side by side, the difference is extremely steep.
Really? Why?
If you take an example, you say you have a meeting with somebody at 11. A German would be there 5 minutes in advance most of the time. A French, when they come 10 minutes late, it's okay, culturally speaking. A German would be offended. And if you don't know that as a German walking into negotiation with a French person, like, that's not polite. And then immediately it sets the tone for the conversation. And that is just Europe. We also work in the US. We also work in Western Africa. That's a whole different ballgame. So in the US, communication is extremely direct. When you write an email here is, hello, XYZ, I hope you keep well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Sets the tone for a polite exchange. Whatever that exchange is deep down, if it's profoundly conflictual, you set the tone with, I hope you keep well. People in the US don't do that. It's like, hello, this and that and that and that and the other is the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you go to Western Africa, then it depends so I know Ivory Coast very well and Ghana and Nigeria, then it's, again, a totally different ballgame between those different countries in terms of time management, in terms of how you speak to each other, in terms of how you communicate in a written way, like in an oral way. It's very, very different.
And timing, you mentioned, is very important, and I wanted also to dive in a little bit into that. How do you use timing as a strategy?
So once again, silence is very powerful. You can use it to build pressure if you want to do that, but also you can use it to change dynamics in a conversation. So for example, when you sit around a table with people and the conversation goes into like a conflictual atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
I do not hesitate to say, okay, let's have a break. And I don't mind if it's in the middle of something. If I see this is going overboard, I stop. And then everybody takes a breather, has a coffee, gives a phone call to their kids, I don't know. And then we go back to what we were discussing in a factual way. So it's also, I'm not a big fan of conflict during negotiations. Sometimes it's necessary, but like overall it's just exhausting for everybody. So, yeah.
And how do you yourself, or how do you recommend people to prepare for a negotiation?
I would say that so there are many different aspects to this.
What are the essentials?
The essentials, obviously, know your subject.
Right.
Whatever it is that you're negotiating, you need to know your numbers. You need to understand the value proposition you're talking about, the people that are sitting at the table, if you want them to stay on board after whatever it is that you're negotiating. So really know your subject. And actually, the more difficult and nervous you are about the negotiation, the better you need to prepare because you feel much more confident about it. In my opinion, 80% of the negotiation success is down to human factors, whether that is your own confidence, your own emotional setup, etc., or the ones from the people that sit in front of you.
That's very interesting. So it's nothing to do with the numbers. I mean, I'm sure the numbers play a
Nothing
role,
is a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, it's like saying the 90% is to do with
80 to 90%.
Yeah.
It's a very high number from my observation.
Really?
So I think that people, it's interesting because people always think, we're rational human beings, No, we're actually not at all.
No, yeah.
If you dive a little bit into the neuroscience of it, no, we're not.
Yeah, no, it's true. So I want to go a little bit deeper into this point, the human element of things, because you have a program, right? A course on negotiation, but it's focused just for women.
Yeah. So we teach mixed groups too, but the course that we've created online, this is really based on like women.
Yeah. So why? Why did you do this? And why just women?
This is based on my personal experience first. So 20 years of corporate finance. I'm also chairing the board of a fintech company where I do a lot of legal negotiations, things like that. And I've largely negotiated with men, but also sometimes with women. I have observed the steep difference between both of them, and it hurt my heart.
Okay. Our listeners, they want to learn.
Okay. So negotiation styles, women are often accommodating, while men are much more often distributive, and there are actually statistics about this. And And I don't have an opinion per se about the negotiation style. What is important is that you know the negotiation styles and you move around according to what you need, right? Sometimes it's important to have a win-lose approach in certain situations. Sometimes it's important to have an accommodating approach. What I didn't want these ladies to do is they have a social conditioning, so they have an accommodating negotiation style. So that's the only thing they know. And that's the only... And when you step into a room full of men who have a distributive negotiation style and you're accommodating, you'll lose.
Right. Give me some concrete examples of those. Like, how would I be distributive and accommodating in a negotiation room?
Okay, so for the definitions, so accommodating means I give in because I want to preserve the relationship, right? And distributive means I take away from you and I don't care if you lose something. Okay? So typically in a salary negotiation, which is a bit the easiest way to understand it, right? You are my male manager, right? And I have a reservation point of, for the sake of the exercise, say you hire me at 100K, right? Say this is my reservation point. I'm not moving. Yeah. And then I'm communicating this to you, and you're coming in saying, yeah, but no, we're not going to do that because we can only give you 90, and that's our budget, and there's nothing to do about it. And in my mind, what is happening is like, oh, I really want this job and I don't want to offend this person and I really want to enter this company. And if I start to really negotiate with him right now, he's my manager, so he's going to resent me for this. It's a very simple example of that. Instead, if somebody comes with a distributive style, have a good reservation point in the buttoner, it's much more effective to getting what you want.
So you could technically step out from the conversation and still come out perhaps with the offer potentially.
Well, I wouldn't step out of the conversation at that point in time. If I realize that somebody is in a distributive mode in front of me, first of all, I might name it and say, hey, you know what? Yeah. We're supposed to work together. You don't care how I feel about this or how this is influencing my motivation. Might want to think about this. Instead of me, moving back and forth and accommodating this. I'm not doing that.
Right. And what if we're in the same team? Let's say, if we have a distributive kind of approach in one side of the team and another person in the same team also pushing for a more accommodating style. Does that lead to better success rates, this combination of both, or not? It creates more confusion.
I think it should never be a setup. I don't think that anybody should permanently be accommodating and anybody should be permanently distributive. In the long term, that's not working because that crushes people. If you want to build long-term relationships, sometimes you need to be distributive, sometimes you need to be accommodating, sometimes you need to go for a win-win approach, but it needs to flow. It can't be consistently somebody's distributive, taking everything for themselves, and somebody else is picking up the pieces by being 100% accommodating 24/7. That's not a very sustainable way of working with each other.
There are differences in styles, but is there any difference in success rates, as in between men and women, when it comes to, do you know of any study or anything like this?
So per se, success rates, we have made a tremendous amount. We did tremendous amounts of research. So this training program didn't come out of my one experience only. So success rates depend on industries, depends on environment. So that's not per se something that you could say. But I can affirm that in my area, corporate finance and tech, mostly you find a distributive negotiation style. Also because men tend to have a distribution negotiation style rather than something else from their natural behavior. And once again, I'm not judging per se. I just think that you need to adapt your negotiation style depending on what you want to achieve.
Okay. What else can we talk about when it comes to the difference between these styles there and the reason why you created this discourse specifically for women?
Okay, so maybe I give you an overview of what we're talking about because it's not only styles, okay?
Exactly. Beyond styles, what else? Yeah.
So we have 5 pillars. The first one is always the relationship with money, which is the entry point of any conversation that we're having about negotiation. So you don't only negotiate about money, of course, but that one is shaping a lot of our behavior negotiations.
Mhm.
The second part is then the technical skills. So we touched on that already: reservation point partner, negotiation styles, a couple of more things. The third one is the interpersonal aspect of negotiation. We've also slightly mentioned that one. You're sitting at the table. It's a win-win situation. You don't, nobody's doing you a favor by being here. Then we talk about preparation. And then we talk about gender dynamics specifically. So these are the 5 pillars.
Okay. When it comes to the relationship with money,
Mm-hmm.
what differences do you see? Or, why is this an issue to begin with?
So women still in our society, even the young ones, are not taught to talk about money. They're not taught to be deserving. They're called greedy. That happens very often to me, actually. even when I negotiate for a client, the amount of times somebody's said to me, "Oh, you negotiate so hard and you're so greedy and you're so afterwards." Like,
Really?
yeah, I like nice bags. What can I say? Like nice handbags. What can I say?
Okay.
So there's a lot of moral stigma on this relationship with money, and as a result, women are just not very comfortable talking about it, asking for it.
Yeah.
Really. And that often goes back generations and then generations. And that's only the gender part of it. Then we also have a family history part of it, actually. So my parents are now upper middle class, but like a couple of generations ago, my ancestors were miners that went into the mines in Germany. They migrated to Germany and went into the mines. The poorest of the poorest people. And to a certain extent, that mindset transcended generations, and you can still see it in certain behavior patterns of the family, actually.
Mhm. And how do you fix this relationship with money? Is it a mindset thing? What is it?
So what we do is we actually elaborated an entire questionnaire that we give to our participants in advance. They need to prepare that, and then we talk about it. Because the first thing that you need to do is actually create awareness if you want to change something. And then after that, it's practice, practice, practice. And whatever, depending on how traumatic the subject is, right? Then that probably also requires professional help and therapy and, personal development, whatever is there. But in general, like what we do is first we create awareness about the topic, because a lot of the ladies are actually not aware
Not aware of
of their relationship with money. Yeah. And even when we do that with the gents, they're also not very aware of it, but they're in general a bit more comfortable.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, make me think about this because it's it's very interesting. When it comes to leadership development,
Yeah.
right? Of course, negotiation is a key pillar for leaders. What are the essential skills really that leaders need to be thinking about when it comes not just to the negotiation, coming to the negotiation table, but then what to do afterwards as well when it comes to maintaining the relationship with, let's say, if you've just gone through a M&A, for example, how to, bring people on board and so on. You've done a lot of those, right? So because the job doesn't end there, right? Your negotiation is actually probably the start of something. How would you? What are the best examples you've seen, and what kind of advice do you tend to give to your clients?
So specifically related to what you're saying, the relationship starts during the negotiation. It's not something where you do the deal and then the relationship building starts afterwards. Whatever it is that you do in a negotiation, it sets a precedent to something. And if people get into an argument or a disagreement and this is not resolved, they'll resent. There's resentment, inevitably. That is one thing. To a larger extent, when I want to speak about leadership skills, actually negotiation is really key. Why? Because we don't only negotiate during deals, we don't only negotiate over money, we negotiate every day over the small things, over the little things, with our children, with our spouses, with our colleagues. And once again, it's all about, ultimately what we all want is a peaceful life, right?
Not everybody.
Peaceful, well, big majority, a
Yeah.
peaceful, prosperous life
Yeah.
with people that we can work with. They don't need to like us, but at least they need to respect us, right? People that respect us, that we can get along with. And that's a constant, it's like social negotiation 24/7. And especially as a manager, I mean, like, I manage my team, I manage teams with the clients, and it's a constant negotiation. Can you do this at that point in time? And do I impose this right now? Do I have a distributive style where I say, you need to do this right now? Do I have an accommodating style where I'm like, okay, you have a bit of time for that, tell me when you're ready. It's like, it's a constant negotiation.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the one thing that you take with you every day, in your negotiations, your daily negotiations, when it comes to, the day-to-day life things that you're just talking about?
So I have a principle in life, which is, I like to be liked, but I prefer being respected.
That's
So I am somebody who seeks harmony, right? Who seeks good relationships with people when I negotiate. I have no intention to offend anybody. But if I feel like you are not doing your part, you're dishonest with me, you're lying to me, whatever it is, I actually stop caring if you like me. At this point in time, I'll make sure you respect me. That's something that's very important. And it also plays into something that we teach for the gender dynamics, which is the likability penalty.
What is it? What is it like?
So in a nutshell, that means that people prefer being liked rather than being respected. Exactly the inverse, actually. Yeah. So they make sure that everything's maintained, even if other people don't treat them well, and they just take it on and accommodate it.
They let people just walk over them.
Yeah.
So you're telling me, so if I go back to your principles or to the theory of it,
Mm-hmm.
you're saying that being respected is almost your anchor. So there's no negotiation about that.
No, that's a reservation point.
Your reservation
No,
point.
but no.
Yeah. Very interesting. Katharina, we covered a lot when it comes to negotiation. I'd like to dive a little bit deeper, but I'm not sure how much time you have. We only have maybe about 10 minutes.
That's okay. We can.
I just really wanted to one point about negotiation that to me it's very important, and perhaps one of my traits, it's precisely this. Like, sometimes I feel like I want to come out, everybody happy, everybody smiling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what are the signals throughout the negotiation that I need to be aware of if I'm like this kind of profile, a person who likes to be liked?
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that I need to be aware of when it comes to this? It's just perhaps creating more boundaries for yourself, or harder what is it like? How do you coach people?
From a likability penalty, emotionally wise, you actually need to dive into why is that the case. And as soon as you worked on that one, you immediately will set stronger boundaries from an emotional perspective. And I say emotional, obviously, it's like these are not mostly not your family people that you're doing deals with. But everything, your body will tell you, and your mind, your heart will tell you when people are overstepping, when they speak to you in a way that you don't want to be spoken to, for example, when they say things that are not nice, whichever. And then boundaries, obviously, once you set your reservation point, your partner, the other things that you can prepare in terms of like really the technical aspects, then you really set with the boundaries. And then that one, reservation point, there are only a couple of reasons you should move it, but not many.
Mm-hmm. And of course, our audience is mostly HR, L&D leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe now they're working on their budgets, usually at this time of the year.
Yes, I can confirm.
So obviously budgets are tight. Organizations are really, being very careful about where they invest their money. A lot of uncertainty in the air now in 2025. As the CHRO of an organization is starting to build their plan for next year,
Mm-hmm.
what principles, what techniques, what can you recommend for them to, okay, come out from those negotiation rooms feeling successful, feeling like they've achieved what they want, or they got what they want for the training needs, whether it's hiring or training or developing leaders in the organization? What do they need in order to come out feeling at least confident or feeling comfortable with what they had?
Okay, so I don't exactly know what they need, but whatever it is they need, I can give a piece of advice on how to get it. I think that any negotiation that is successful should be value-driven. And what that actually means is you are an HR person, you need training budget, right? So you say, I need, I don't know, 30K of training budget. I'd just pick a number, random. And then the mistake is to go into this meeting and say, I need 30K of training budget because I want to train 15 people in XYZ. What you really want to say is, I need training budget of 30K because the people that I train will provide X amount of revenue growth. So what you anchor in the conversation is, you give me that money, I multiply it by, I don't know how much, but it's like, this is an investment which will provide growth to the bottom line of the company directly. And then you build your business case around that and you have a nice presentation and you explain.
When that kind of data is not available, because it's very difficult to predict that kind of thing, right? You know, maybe some organizations are more sophisticated, they might have that in place. When like the value is not available for the sake of the argument, what do you go with?
Well, the first thing that I would ask myself then, why do I want this budget in the first place if I can't show the value? Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, the value doesn't necessarily have to be quantitative. It can also be qualitative.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fine. But like me as a business owner, I do not walk up to my prospects and say, hey, I want this money, but I really don't know what it brings to you in terms of value. I don't do this either. So you can't just walk into a room and say, I want this, but I have no reasoning. We call that principled arguments, actually.
What is the best way for people to connect with you?
So you can go on our website, behaviour.com. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. No problem. You can send us an email at info@StellarOne.biz. Just that we are on social media, so get in touch.
Thank you very much, Katharina. My guest has been Katharina Dalka, and I've been Thiago Kivi. Thanks very much for listening to Learning Rewired. We'll be with you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.